Welcome to Clarity in Action. This is the show where we have real conversations that are going to challenge your perspectives and drive real action. So if you are tired of holding back and you're ready to make bold moves, this is the show for you. Join us as we are going to take you from confusion into clarity. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Clarity in Action. I am your host, Clara Capano, and today we are speaking about a topic that is very near and dear to me, and this is about how we understand that the hustle is not always the way to go. As entrepreneurs, as leaders, many of us have been trained to keep pushing, and that's how you achieve success. And you know what? As with everything, there is a time and a place for it. So today I have my friend Mariko. Mariko, welcome to the show. And we are going to be debunking this myth and understanding that there is power in the pause. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on today. I've been all day looking forward to that conversation with you. And I'm really excited to really dive into this conversation because as you know, many business owners would recognize and maybe align with the idea of like, wow, I am hustling and I do no longer want to hustle anymore.
Mm-hmm. And, growing up, I loved it. I love working. I love what I do. And I remember always priding myself. I used to love telling people, oh, I worked, 14 hours today. And I thought that was a big pillar to success, and only to realize that, you can only do that for so long and it doesn't really serve you in the long run. I would love to ask you, where do you think this idea comes from? Why do you think so many people feel that the road to success is paved in the hustle and that's where they need to be living?
That's a really good question, right? I think even when we go back to our childhood, I'm not sure about you, but in my Asian culture, I'm originally from Japan. And as a kid, like my parents, grinded and saying, hey, you have to work hard to get great grades, and as a woman, especially Asian and being a woman, you have to work as 10 times as harder than men to be seen. And so almost like it's what, they was taught that way, right? From my grandparents. And I think it's passed down generation. And, for me, I think I accepted that idea. And I went to school, and of course, like you have to study hard and, go from grade 1 to grade 2 to grade 3, right? Gradual growth. And it's almost like we've been taught and told that we have to work hard to succeed. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. And I agree. I think there was a time, where that was the required, forte, and that's what we had to do. And I just think more and more people are starting to learn, again, maybe early in your career, but I have found that I start thriving when I find the harmony, when I have certain seasons that I can push harder, but then other ones where I can pull back. And I find that I can just show up so much more authentically. I would love to ask you, other than just when you were growing up and going to school, have you had a personal, moment where you realized, hey, this might not be the right thing for me and there might be a better way to do things?
Yeah, for sure. So this goes back quite a few years, but when I started the business, right? And of course I had this mindset of like, I have to work and push hard. And so what ended up happening was I started to do everything on my own, right? Mm-hmm. And I began to work. As crazy as it seems, I have 3 kids and they were still little, but I used to work 18 plus hours every single day for a year and a half.
With 3 kids?
With 3 kids. Wow. Right. And 2 dogs. Right. Throw it in there, it's like all the things that I have responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And so I found myself sleeping maybe 2 hours a night for the first year and a half of my business. And I experienced what's called a massive burnout. But I was grinding. Mm-hmm. It was miserable. I was like, why did I start my business in the first place? Like we have this idea when you're starting the business, it's like, oh, it's like I'm doing this for my kids and I'm going to have more free time. And it was completely opposite. And the moment for me was I was in this office and my daughter, my middle daughter, who's now 16, came knocking on the door and said, "Mom, can I just talk to you for a minute?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, it feels to me like it, right? You never want to spend time with me anymore. Like, it's almost like you never want to spend time with us anymore. And that was like a knife in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for sure a wake up call, like wake up call in a way that my way was no longer working and I had to find some other way.
Yeah. And here it was, is again, you did this with the concept, I'm doing this for them so I can have a better life, so I can have more flexibility and freedom. But
Yes.
what we find is that once you get in, it's so hard to pull back. And, those relationships that are the ones that are most important to us are often the ones that are suffering.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Wow. My wake up call was very similar. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh,
Um, I would love to go a little bit, deeper to that. I know that you mentioned that when your daughter said that, it really hurt you. What did you do next? Like, how did you work it to have it start to change for you? Because the thought can happen in an instant, but to get from point A to point B, you may not be able to just wake up tomorrow and start doing things different. Did you sort of have a progression of how
yeah.
you thought about it, how you started pulling back, how you started integrating all this?
Right. So, like I mentioned, I knew my way wasn't working. I had to find a better way. And
Mhm.
I knew that about manifestation, but I knew at the same time I wasn't really applying, I wasn't all in. Right. And so I began to really dive in deeper study with manifestation. And at the same time, okay, what are the things that I'm doing as a business owner that
Mhm.
I can easily have someone else do it? Right. And stop being a control freak. Right.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
someone else can do a better job than I can at certain things. Right. And so learning and also to release that control, but also really studying the principle of manifestation and the laws that govern the universe.
Yeah. So tell me more, like how manifesting. I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, so you just thought about it?" Like how did you put that into practical, like what was it? Were you sitting down? Were you doing visioning exercises about what you wanted your life to look like? Were you journaling? How
Mhm.
did you take it from just this thought to actually the creation of it?
Yeah, so I think a lot of misconception of manifestation is like creating a vision board and then dream about it, and next day, like, and you see the Ferrari in your garage, and then next morning you wake up
Doesn't work that way.
and you're expecting Ferrari, and then you're like, "Where is my Ferrari?" And just right, and but I think that's the misconception about it. Have you watched the movie The Secret?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so that was also like the missing piece, right? It's almost like gave someone this concept like you don't have to do anything, you can just imagine and have everything.
Mhm.
Often say manifestation, you have to show up, right? Meet
Yes.
you halfway, right?
Mhm.
So what I started to work on was the identity piece, right? So it's not just enough to visualize it and do the affirmation, because in manifestation you not necessarily get what you want, but you always receive who you have become.
Mhm.
I really began to work on my identity. I began to really challenge my thoughts of, as a leader, if I'm truly leading my team, right, how would I lead, how would I communicate, how would I talk, how would I even
Yeah.
walk? And so I began to really go deeper into identity work.
I love that. So I
Mhm.
want to talk a little bit about the cost of the hustle. Again, there's certain times where we need to do that, but we can't live there. So when you are in that hustle cycle, what are some of the things that are happening below the surface? What are some of the things that are happening that we don't necessarily see, but are impacting us?
Yeah, your inner being, right? Because
Mhm.
as a human, we can't really live in the survival mode maybe we can handle for a short period, but
Right.
we can't live like that for a longer period. There has to come a breaking point, right? And underneath it, it's also, I believe, is your self-worth. Why do we feel like you have to work so hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost
Yeah.
like trying to prove ourselves. You working 14 hours, me working 18 plus hours, it's almost like, look at me, like I'm doing, I'm successful,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. We carry so much guilt. And I work with a lot of leaders, and there's a lot of leaders following this. And I think they carry so much guilt when they're not when they're not grinding 24/7. And I see that with a lot of entrepreneurs too. How would you, if you were sitting down with someone, how would you reframe the idea of rest and strategic pauses, as tools, so that people aren't looking at the pause as a weakness, but actually something that's going to strengthen them and their ability to serve and lead others?
Mm. I think it's important to have a shift in perspective. So now I've learned to shift my perspective to see rest and self-care as
Mhm.
business productive activities on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So when I'm scheduling anything, I'm putting that in my schedule first. That
Yeah.
goes first, right? And that tells the subconscious, like, you're taking care of yourself, you're putting yourself. And if your energy is depleted, then the
Yeah.
business has no chance to succeed either.
It's so true. Yeah. And we have to start again thinking about it. And this was something that I heard a long time ago is, your clients pay you to take time off because they want someone who is going to be able to give their best and show up present, and just like your daughter said to you, you're not really here. So even though you might have been there physically, you weren't there present. And I just think how many people are just going through the motions, but aren't really present in what they're doing. And when you're not present, that's going to erode trust. It's going to then erode productivity. And it's just, downhill from there.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And
Yeah.
when I went to Cancun recently and I was away, and my clients were like, "I'm so happy you're away."
I know.
Yeah, right? Like, you're worried, can I take this time off? But actually, when you take time off, they're so happy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love this idea where you talked about the manifesting and the identity, how you really sat down and you said, who do I need to become? And I think I would love to get your thoughts, but to me, I think that's almost a great starting point, is just to sit down and just dream. Don't worry about how it's all going to happen, but just dream. If I want to have these goals, which could include, I want to be present with my loved ones. I want to work 40 hours a week. Whatever it is, really get that clear vision of who you need to become. Then again, it all starts to work from there. So can you speak more to, how you did that? Again, did you write it down? Did you just dream about it? How did you start to connect, and how would you guide others to really start this process for connecting with their identity?
Yeah, exactly what you just shared.
Mm-hmm.
You paint the picture, like, imagine having a blank canvas and paint the picture, like, if anything was possible, just be playful, right?
Yeah.
I think we don't play enough,
Yeah.
and so just take that brush and begin to paint your ideal life, if anything was possible, right? If there's no
Mhm.
limitation,
Yeah.
that's the starting point, right?
Hmm.
In business and obviously, but in personal life, right? What kind of schedule you have, like, you begin to imagine. And imagination is one of our 6 higher faculties, and we don't really exercise it enough. And as we begin to really see ourselves and become very clear with what we want, right, then you're not observing the picture. See if you can step inside of the picture,
Mm.
become the main character.
Yeah. Now, do you have somebody else that you've worked with that you can maybe share kind of a case study on, and how you took them from that confusion, that overwhelm, that stressed out hustle, and
Yes.
kind of guided them through?
Yeah, for sure. So uh, he's okay with sharing this. Jason, who was in mortgage business, had his business for about 17 years. And he was pretty doing decently, about 20 he said about 25, 45,000 per month consistently. And when we had a call, he said, I'm doing okay. And I said, okay, but what would you love? Like, if you could and have anything, like, what would you really love?
Mhm.
What is your heart's desire? And he said, well, I don't know how it's possible, but I would love to do 150,000 consistently per month. And I said, okay, let's do it. And he's like, well, you make it sound so easy. And I said, why does it have to be so difficult? He said, you don't understand. He said, well, to do that, it's like I have to be at like the very top mortgage broker here in Canada. And I said, why can't that person be you? Long story short, he began to, he saw himself as a very confident individual, but later on he shared that he didn't really have the identity as a person who's already doing 150,000. And when
Mhm.
he began to really do this work together to reprogram subconscious mind to accept his identity as already doing 150, then within about 5 months, he saw himself doing it. He couldn't believe it, right? That's just one of many examples.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to kind of talk practical application, especially with leaders. It's really, there's this dichotomy because we've got to get results. We set expectations out for the people we work with, we set goals. How can a leader both model the importance of the work life harmony and also set the stage for we've got to accomplish these goals? Because they sort of work in opposition. So, how can a leader sort of model it and not send mixed messages about the expectations and performance?
Yeah, I think it's expecting the best, expecting
Mhm.
the best from ourselves is really important as a business owner for sure, right? But it's not either or. I think
Yeah.
in oftentimes for me, I used to think, well, it's either my business or it's my family, my personal life. Like there has to be some sacrifices made. So I
Mhm.
think first again is seeing like in the mind as both being integrated, right? So from this time to this time, I'm laser focused. You know,
Mhm.
I know business owners, they think they're focused. They're not really, it's busy like answering emails and, they do the activity that actually doesn't really move the needle for their business, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
laser focused, right? Leading as a leader, right? And then at the same time, certain times are for family. So for example, after a certain hour, like it's family time, the notification, the phone goes off, right? And
Mhm.
you create that space. So
Absolutely. And I love that idea that again, it's the harmony. It's, let's just have focus time, let's bring it in and just showing them and again modeling how to work it and how to integrate it, I think is hugely important. So I think that's great. So I know that you are working on tons of stuff. You always have, big projects going on. What is it that you're working on right now?
we have a retreat coming up, which is I'm really excited about. And so I'm working on that. There's my book is on its way. So those are the things, and I have constant workshops, live events. Yeah,
Love it. Awesome. And we're going to have the links to all your stuff in the show notes. So
right.
when is your book going to be coming out?
2027 in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
we'll have to have you back when that one comes out so we can dive into it even more.
Thank
So,
you so much.
so I couple more questions I have for you is if you could, go back in time to your earlier self because again, you were building a business and that requires a lot. What is some advice that you would give your earlier entrepreneurial self?
Prioritize rest.
Mhm.
Really
Love it.
prioritize rest first.
Yeah. And let go of the guilt around it.
Yes, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
I
And
know.
you will always hit the results. And learning to also slow down, right?
Mm,
Learning to slow down can really speed up the process.
yeah. And I'm just curious, how are your children now? Have they seen a shift in you? Have they
Oh my
commented?
gosh, yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to ask them, but I'm always traveling with them. Just came back from Whistler, spending time with them, and so they're loving. I'm sure they're loving the mom, this version of me now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, wonderful. Well, it has been so fun talking with you. I think that this is a a message and a conversation that more people need to have. Again, there is a time to push the pedal and there is a time to hold back. And it's about integrating and finding the harmony, because that's how we work at our optimal level. We are not designed to just work pedal to the metal all the time. So I appreciate you bringing this and speaking up and shedding light on it. One final question that I have for you is, sitting where you sit today and learning everything you've learned, how do you define success for yourself now?
Wow, you ask an amazing question. Yeah, I love it. How do I define success? For me, to have been able to live my truth fully, the life that I came here to live in alignment with my purpose.
So good. I think you're succeeding at that and you're helping people along the way. So what you're doing is very important work, and I honor you and I appreciate you and just wish you so much success.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate you and your presence.
Thank you. And for all of you, I hope that you took away some value. I would encourage you to go back, do some of these exercises, sit down, really start to get that clear vision on what you want your life. Again, live your truth, walk in your purpose. Don't worry about the how. The vision comes first. The how will find a way. And you have the power inside of you to create that vision for you. It's not always about the hustle. It is about the moments between those and making sure that we're honoring those. So thank you so much for being here. Make sure to share this with others, like, comment, give us a 5-star review, and always join us next week. I'm Clara Capano, and we'll see you next time for another episode of Clarity in Action. Welcome to Clarity in Action. This is the show where we have real conversations that are going to challenge your perspectives and drive real action. So if you are tired of holding back and you're ready to make bold moves, this is the show for you. Join us as we are going to take you from confusion into clarity.